Hello again, and welcome to Winning with the Wrangler, a Dick Powell's Leadership Corner, brought to you by Earth, Wind, Fire, Water Training and Development, where our passion is building leaders of today and tomorrow. Leaders, today have a very special guest, Miss Robin. How are you doing today?
I'm terrific.
You know, today, leaders, we want to bring you a subject that we believe, Robin and I both, that is so powerful that when you start listening to it, you're going to say, boy, I need to do some of those things, or I need to put some of those things into someone else. And leaders, that's one of our big things we're called to do. We're called to build more leaders. So let's find out how to take and do that. Now, today we're going to be taking this lesson straight out of John Maxwell's Leadership Bible. Now, I don't say that lightly because I found this to be such a tool for me to be able to share with others. So let's start off with some simple things. This is a lesson in leadership. Success without a successor is a failure. Now, I know that sounds harsh, but it's really not. If you're not bringing someone up behind you, if you're not honestly looking for that person who is going to take over, all of us have a time and a place with ages and stages in our leadership life. And there's also a time to stay, and there's a time to pass the baton. What do you think, Robin?
I absolutely agree. I think leaders, I'm a big proponent in organizations I'm in, especially right now, for having a term written down. It's either 2 or 3 years usually.
Okay.
And you need to serve your term. And in that process, generally there is an a president-elect, a moderator-elect, something coming up behind you.
Why?
And they need to have experience, not just be filling a chair.
Okay, so why do you think it's so hard to do this, though?
I think because we're out of practice.
I don't know whether it's
or
out
we
of
didn't
practice.
Plan it or something.
It just seems to me that no matter what nonprofit world we're working in, this is the number one problem: finding someone to come in and take your place.
Well, not only that, but sometimes people hold the job so long that nobody feels like they're needed. That you hold it so long, it's your way or the highway, and has been that way, and everyone knows it. And what they don't, I think, what I'm feeling in a couple organizations, thankfully I'm not the leader, is that they're waiting for the leader to have a stroke or a heart attack, literally,
Wow.
and leave so they can come in and pick up the pieces and encourage more people to be part of the organization and go forward.
So term limits
are
a good thing.
I'm looking at our senators who have no term limits. And my gosh, how many people that age do you know that have a sane mind and an able body, really?
I truly believe there needs to be some kind of guideline to go by. And
not that they don't come back at times and offer wisdom or help or fill in if the younger person has a stroke or a heart attack, they can come back and pick up the pieces because they know what the job is, theoretically. But I think you need to have a time where that after, again, 2 or 3 or 4 years, you need to go. You're tired, you're stale, go away.
Without a successor. Okay.
There's no one.
There's no one to go. And this is where we see nonprofits, especially in churches, as well as in, all the rest of them. This is when they die. This is when they go away. And this is what happens over and over. So this whole thing of success without a successor is a failure. I have to tell you, I'm a strong proponent here.
And there are, again, a lot of stories and tales and exhibits of that all across the face of our country.
Well, everything we've been involved with so far.
Everything has to change or it dies.
And that's why this has become such an important topic for us today, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the second one, I believe, is just as hard. It's decision making and problem solving is the fastest way to gain influence. Now, we know that John says over and over that leadership is influence, nothing more than nothing less. But this problem solving is more than just snap decisions. I believe snap decisions are important at times when they have to be there.
You need to react quickly at times. Other times you need to take time to think.
You need to take really put in a discernment process.
Discernment process. Yes. A prayer.
Let me kind of go over what this discernment process is. When it's a discernment process, it takes time.
Right.
It takes time to do the research and gather all the information so that you have everything with you before the decision is made. And that takes time.
And it takes everyone taking time, not just the leader. It's
and bring it
everyone
together.
needs to take time. You need to have time to think about it, to have those aha moments in the middle of the night. You need time to pray about it. Sometimes you need time to go talk to other people who aren't involved and find out what their perspective might be, because someone you know has experienced something similar.
How important is that they can go and talk to someone else?
Oh, I always like the committee decide. You know what I mean?
I have a couple mentors that I normally turn to when I'm in that kind of situation, and I have the time to actually do the discernment process.
Right, and sometimes it's not just a mentor you know, it's someone that you meet that you're casually having a conversation with that gives you some little tidbit that's just illuminating.
But if you don't share that with people,
you have to share it. You have to be open, you have to listen, pay attention, absorb, share. So
that's really important. The next thing that's on our list is to check your motives before you lead anything. I'm going to tell you, is it the people's wish or is it your wish?
Right.
You need to check your motives.
And I think that goes back to the previous one, where you're not preparing your successor. Your motives aren't pure. They're keeping you in place so you can be the savior.
Star.
You can be the star, the savior, whatever you want to call it. And I think that those two kind of complement, or whatever the opposite of that is, to each other.
Well, I think that they go together in such a way that when we just sit and look at these things that we're going to talk about today, you're going to find that in the leadership portion, they all do go together.
They do. They mesh together. It's all different size of a.
So this lesson, I truly believe, is going to be really important for you. So checking your motives. Now this next one, I have to tell you, I believe we'll have a pretty good discussion about it, because Rob and I do two different things here. Okay, the issue is not prioritizing our schedule, but scheduling our priorities. Robin, how do we come up with our priorities?
Well, you have to think about it, write them down.
Have to think about it, write it down.
Sometimes you have to put them in order, because sometimes your family has to come first.
Okay.
And sometimes your position and organization has to come first. And it just depends on what day of the week and what time of the day it is. There's some things that aren't always going to trump other things, like strokes and heart attacks. But just tie this
and
all
I haven't had those yet. Okay,
just so you know. Those yet. But there are things that come into that, those emergency situations you have to be ready for. But that goes back into preparing your successor.
For prioritizing, I believe first takes the ability to take and kind of get down all the things that need to be accomplished.
Right.
And then to
put them in order.
I kind of prioritize them as what the most important thing is that I know right now.
Right. And I have always been a person who prioritizes by when things need to be done.
That backdated calendar type
thing? It's like
thing?
An automatic backdate calendar. So I got an email last week, one morning before I was going to a meeting with this person, about something that's happening in 6 weeks.
Okay.
She said, "You didn't read it?" No, I didn't read it. I got it 10 minutes before I need to be out the door. I'm already running late. And I didn't need to know it right then, because I don't need to know it for 6 weeks. I just need to know what my part is.
So the priority wasn't there for you.
It wasn't
6 weeks
there
away.
Right then. But I got to tell you, I figured it out. She's a person who does her priorities, and she plans way, way, way out in advance. But the last minute things for the program or the meeting fall by the wayside because they don't get done.
Okay.
And that's a difference of personalities.
Let me go back here a little bit. Prioritizing is good.
It's good.
But I still think you need to build in what you and I have always called MARF.
MARF.
Maintain absolute rigid flexibility. And the reason you have to do that is because life happens.
The world turns.
Your car won't start. You have a flat tire. You get sick. Someone in your family's sick.
You oversleep.
Just stuff happens. And if you can't look at your list of priorities and then adjust them when needed.
Adjust as necessary.
Okay. Well, I think it just must drive people
Well,
wackadoodle.
well, it does. And we have a friend who she has this word. It's called PDDANT. Now, I don't think she's that. Look it up on the internet. It was very interesting.
Yeah.
But she wants all the details ahead of time. Well, sometimes they're not there. I'm a person who, I do long range planning. I know Christmas is coming December 25th, and today is March something. I know it's coming. I
But
will
I'm
be
not
ready.
ready.
I will be ready by then.
I'm not ready.
But I also know that there are things, milestones. That's our word for the year. Milestones, mile markers,
Milestones.
mile markers, milestones,
Yeah,
whatever.
either one.
Along the way that have to be hit. But I also know sometimes if I don't get everything planned out exactly as it's going to be in my mind, that some really good ideas come along that if I had it all planned out, there wouldn't be room for, and we would miss out.
Well, and I think
So you got to find your medium and what you're happy
and what
with and
works
what you
for
can live
you.
with.
But again, I do believe that the milestones on the calendar, so you can see very quickly what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, how it needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
I assign things like the date it needs done,
Mm-hmm.
who's responsible for it,
Oh yeah, you flesh it out.
whether or not there's a budget for it. I'm all that kind of a strange person. But I have found over and over that I have to always maintain Marv.
Yes.
So I build time
Where's that
into it.
dinosaur?
He's up on the. He's
in
right up there. He's right up there.
Oh, here, let me show you Marv.
He's been around just a couple years,
This
so
is Marv.
he's kind of well worn and.
I've had Marv since 1988. 30 years this year.
Cub Scout Day Camp.
Yeah, some nice kid found this in the bushes outside the church and thought I lost it. It was dinosaur year. I've had it that long. And he has a cousin we found somewhere else.
And his cousin somewhere.
I think he's in Noah's Ark.
Yeah, that's where he's at.
Okay. Anyway,
okay.
So now you've seen Marv.
So understand that this is on my desk, ladies and gentlemen. So don't think that I don't use this stuff. Let's go to this next one because I believe in today's meeting that we went to, this one is not being met.
Uh-oh.
Influencing followers is addition.
1 + 5.
Influencing followers is addition. Influencing leaders is multiplication.
So when each one adds 1, that makes 2. When 1 adds 1 and then multiplies it, it becomes 4, and then 8, and then 16.
When you're working with leaders, you don't really know what they're going to touch and who they're going to touch.
Right.
And that's the whole point. As leaders building leaders, you touch one, but they might touch one, they might touch one, they might touch one, and it keeps going down the line. More likely, you're going to touch several, and it's going to multiply in a very quick manner. One of the things that Robin and I have enjoyed is that our seeing our young Cub Scouts come back, and now they're married and they have children of their own,
Scouts.
and they have Cub Scouts of their own, and they're back in the program as leaders.
Yeah.
Now, some of these, we questioned the fact that when they were little, whether or not they'd ever grow up. But I'll tell you what, that's what you don't know. And that's why this whole thing here is that adding 1 + 1 is 2. But a leader multiplying yourself. Think how the world would change if we just took time to do that. Today's conversation in our meeting was about some things that I'm not going to discuss today, but what really got me is they weren't talking about the real core problem. And the real core problem was working with our youth, working with our young adults, working with parents who had never had any parental training. and so that leadership piece fell on deaf ears. And that's why we're coming to you. I think that's why this became so important for us to talk about today. When I ran across in my reading, reading my Bible every day, I came across this morning and I went, wow, what a thing to take and share with all you leaders out there. Now, this next point, I want you to listen to because, well, it might cause you some discomfort.
Listen carefully.
And here's what I'm going to tell you, leaders. If you're a good leader, discomfort is part of learning. That's what I'm going to tell you. So keep first things first. Distraction is the enemy of direction. Focus. You know, this first things first is hard. But if you have your vision and your mission and your strategy written down so that you can do your strategy, your day-to-day plan. So if you're doing your plan, you're working your plan, make a plan, work your plan. You ever heard of that? But you're working the strategy so you can live your mission and achieve your vision.
And that goes back to priorities and
Goes back to
time management and all
priorities. It
that.
goes back to MARF. It goes back to,
Yeah.
what are your motives?
Mhm.
I mean, all these things start to really peg together. You see, they make a complete package. But this whole thing of the enemy of direction, so many times Rob and I run into an organization or leadership where the leader is just a shiny ball.
Oh yeah, I love that. I can't do that anymore. I did it once. Yeah.
There's a Christmas tree and there's 40 shiny balls on it.
You're the star at the top.
And every one is a great idea.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, if they're not in your strategic plan and they're not part of they don't feed the mission to achieve the vision, then they're just shiny balls. And that's why this became so important. So the focus on the direction, I believe, does two things. One is that it shows the people that you're working with, you're leading, that everybody's on the same page and everybody's working towards the same opportunity.
Correct.
What do you think?
I think it keeps everyone's mind in them. Because occasionally you have someone whose only goal is to have the best dessert at the meeting.
Best dessert at their meeting.
Yeah, they want to have the most spectacular dessert because that's important. They forget that there's meat and potatoes that go with that.
Okay.
It kind of flushes everything out a little better. So yeah.
There's bigger pieces to this.
There's bigger pieces.
Okay.
And you got to figure those out.
This is going to be a hard one. Leaders must touch a heart before they ask for a hand. What do you think?
I think there's a lot of truth in that. That goes back to building a relationship between the leaders and the people involved in the organization or the group or whatever. That you need to have a relationship so that you can carry on.
In a large organization, I worked in a large organization. It was hard to learn everybody.
Right.
But it took time, and I had to really kind of take some notes, and I had a kind of little file that I kind of kept from time to time.
Oh, that black book.
But the thing is the people knew that I wanted to learn about them, not about the job,
right?
Not about what they were doing. I wanted to learn about them.
They knew that you cared.
That's a big part. And so when it came time that something needed done that wasn't popular or wasn't going to be exciting.
Do we have time to interject the opposite side of that here?
Yes, we do.
Have you ever been at an organization where someone thought they knew you well enough to make public comments about what you could do or your capabilities or whatever else, and they were maybe not 180 degrees off, but maybe 120?
That could be dangerous.
It was dangerous. Well, actually saved our butts in a lawsuit one time because they had no idea about the questions they asked me, and I just sat there and thought, they didn't ask me one question about this other part of my life. Keep your mouth shut, because if they knew that, you'd be in trouble. And so what they don't know, sometimes it's irritating and annoying and makes you feel less important.
Well,
but keep those things in mind also.
But I think this thing of touching the heart.
You have to touch the heart.
Those who know me know that my biggest passion and best part of my week is Sunday morning. Walking down the aisle, talking to everybody, hugging who needs hugged, and just touching base with everyone. That's the best part of my day. But that's what I love to do. What I found is that not all people in my position love to do those kind of things. Well, so if you don't, find someone who does.
Right. Again, we're back to every personality needs to be represented on the group so that everything gets done that needs to get done. Not everybody can bring the fancy dessert. Not everybody wants to hug people.
Well, that's kind of what I
Some
like
people
to
don't
do.
want it at all.
Yeah, that's true.
And there are people that don't want to be hugged, and you really are putting them on the spot if you insist on hugging them.
Well, yeah, but
And you don't do that because
no,
the people at church want
the
you to do
ladies
that.
kind of always kind of,
They look forward to it.
All right. This next one, I want to kind of give you a prelim here. Well, I'm going to jump right in. A divided leader eventually produces a divided nation.
Or group, or
yeah,
organization.
I want you to think about all the groups you've ever been involved with. That when the leader started to have two factions within the group,
which is pretty easy.
What started to happen? Usually this happens when we lose our focus on our vision and our mission. Because then we start seeing the shiny balls on that Christmas tree.
So what I'm hearing is what happens is we focus on the individuals and not on the organization's mission and vision. Is that what you're saying? Or is that just what I'm hearing?
Well, I think you have to focus on both.
Yeah, you can't just disregard one for the other. But you have to have a balance.
It's on how we do things.
Okay.
It gets down to that strategy piece where we start to really have those interesting conversations. Well, that's the way we've always done it. We're going to try something new?
Oh my gosh.
Where'd you find that?
Never did that before.
That's where this starts to happen. And as the leader, it's your job to kind of guide back to center.
Right.
Back to the vision.
Keep the focus.
And the mission. And make that happen. Because if you let this go, a house divided will fall. We've heard that 100.
I think we read that in the Bible.
Yeah, it's in here.
I was thinking about Star Trek theology.
Uh-oh.
Watch out.
Go ahead and share that. Go ahead.
It said the good of the many outweighs the good of the one. Except when it doesn't.
I think you have to know when and where to put that into place. So I'm not so sure.
There are times where it's appropriate. I just flew into my brain and so it came out my mouth.
That's okay. It's okay. That's why this is so good. We're getting the leaders out there. You get two different ways of looking at things. Even though Rob and I have been married 40-something years, we still look at things differently as well as we look as together. So just know that.
Otherwise, it'd be really boring around here.
Yeah. Boy, I'll tell you, this wouldn't be any fun at all. Passion and conviction mark the difference between a great leader and a mediocre one. Passion and conviction. What do you think about passion and conviction?
Well, those are really strong words. That's my first thought. They're strong words.
They are strong words.
But I think if the leader doesn't have a fair amount of passion for the organization and whatever they're doing, their vision, that the organization isn't really going to do much.
If the leader doesn't have this passion,
right.
how can they stand in front of a group? When people stand in front of a group and just, hello, ladies and gentlemen, my name's Dick Powell. I'm going to here to talk to you about. They get turned off pretty quick if you don't have some kind of excitement.
There's some
enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm.
See, I look at passion and enthusiasm kind of going together.
Okay.
I still to this day loved that one big Cub Scout event called Thusum. I miss Thusum. Thusum was a place where all the leaders got together and we got excited about what we were going to do for the next year.
Re-energized.
Well, and it was great because every year you got together with people you didn't see but once a year.
Yeah, from all of the state.
To take and really get excited about how you were going to work with the youth.
And share what you had been doing and pick up new ideas and everything. It was very enthusiastic.
So that passion, boy, it showed everywhere.
Okay. It came out.
The conviction, though, I believe is more of
staying true
to the message, staying true to the vision,
and the mission statement.
Staying true to the mission.
Okay.
And also being dedicated.
Okay. And consistent.
The consistency has to happen.
Yeah.
But this dedication piece, I believe when you're convicted to do something, you are convicted. You're going to do it.
Like you're going to prison.
Well, no, I'm not going to go to prison.
Oh no, it's the other kind of convicted.
Yeah. It really means that I have made a decision and I'm going to stick to it
Right.
and follow it through. Does that make sense?
Yes. Is there a better word than convicted? I'm just saying.
I don't know. We'll have to look that one up
wondering
later.
why I didn't take a synonym of that before we started.
Well,
Okay.
we could have.
Yeah, would have required part
I
of
wanted to use it straight up out of here because I
it's
believe
John's word.
it's John's words. And the other thing is, the last one here, it says principles, not emotions, should guide your leadership.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
If you've got passion about what you're doing, I'm going to tell you what, it's going to be very hard to keep your emotions out of it.
Yeah, they kind of go hand in hand. They follow each other around.
I'm going to tell you what, mine do. I don't know about everybody else's, but sometimes, though, I have to look back at what are our values, the principles, the values, okay, that are driving this situation, and how they go together on this. What do you think?
I think that's a lot of truth in that. I'm cogitating upon it.
Okay. The reason that I really strongly believe that this was such a powerful leadership lesson, because we're working on a day-to-day basis with different groups in
different places,
and different places in their growth,
their evolution,
and evolution. I want to say growth because I guess I pray all the time that they're growing and not stagnating. And for me, that's a
that they are evolving.
Yeah, that's a piece that I really I do say I pray a lot about it. Let me go through these just kind of overview. We've got some minutes to fill, and I want to make sure that if you had any questions, you got to be able to write them down. All right, here we're going to go. Success without a successor is a failure. Decision making and problem solving is the fastest way to gain influence. Check your motives before you lead anything. The issue is not prioritizing our schedule, but scheduling our priorities. Influencing followers is addition. Influencing leaders is multiplication. Keep first things first. Distraction is the enemy of direction. Leaders must touch a heart before they ask for a hand. A divided leader eventually produces a divided nation. Passion and conviction mark the difference between a great leader and a mediocre one. Principles, not emotions, should guide your leadership. I hope that you see how those things are all one package. You really can't tear them apart from each other.
No, they kind of play on each other, don't they?
So as a leader, how would I take this and teach this or instruct this to others?
I would take it one step at a time, one statement at a time, and build on it.
And then break it down.
Break it down and build on it, and then go back and check. Like if most of organizations we're involved in have a committee or whatever that meets periodically that kind of directs things, and take one at a time and go through it, or take a day and do some leadership training. It's more than an hour. I'm just saying, it really is more than an hour. And set your direction and everything. But I would and then go back and refer to it in between and say, how are we doing? But if you don't refer back to it, you don't really. It's just one more.
The ongoing, continuous learning as a leader. If you're not reading, if you're not listening, if you're not going to a seminar, if you're not doing something to add to your learning, I'm going to encourage you to.
I'm going to encourage you, if you're the leader of a group or an organization that has those meetings we talked about, to take a little bit of time in each meeting and do your leadership development.
Okay.
It's really important to do it over time and follow one track, like either follow John Maxwell or follow somebody else in leadership over the course of maybe a year or whatever, and grow. And then maybe you want to pick somebody else next year. I don't know. So just keep that in mind.
Okay.
Make it part of your program.
Well, on behalf of myself and Robin, we want to encourage you to go out and learn more. If you have any questions or comments on today's program, please give us a call, 727-422-1833. Send us an email at dick@leadershipwrangler.com. Go and set your very own appointment with us at www.leadershipwrangler.com. And when you're ready for that next great keynote speaker on leadership, make sure you give us a call. Till next time, this is DW the Wrangler saying, ride hard, ride fast.